welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Or, I might show up at your door. I'm just here to share some creepy stories, so sit back and enjoy. Disclaimer: the content presented in the video is purely for entertainment purposes only. The theories and stories discussed in this video are speculative and are not supported by any evidence or proof. Viewer discretion is advised.
Forum post, MiamiTransitTalk.com user, Mapmaster 305-842 p.m. I've worked for Miami-Dade Transit for 8 years now. It's a decent job, updating bus routes, maintaining the digital infrastructure that keeps this sprawling city connected. Nothing extraordinary. At least that's what I thought until 3 days ago. It started with Biscayne Boulevard. I was making routine updates to our transit navigation database when I noticed something odd about the street's coordinates. The digital map showed it running parallel to the bay as it always had, but when I cross-referenced with the previous month's data, the coordinates were off by nearly 80 feet. Not just a small calibration error, the entire street had shifted west. I figured it was a software glitch. We'd upgraded our mapping system last month, and new systems always have bugs. I reported it to IT and forgot about it until my drive home that evening. I take the same route every day, down 2nd Avenue, right on 15th Street, then onto the highway. Except 15th Street wasn't where it should have been. I drove past it, twice. The third time, I pulled over and checked my phone. According to GPS, I was exactly where 15th Street intersected 2nd Avenue, but there was no intersection, just an unbroken stretch of road. That's when my phone buzzed with an alert. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Temporary infrastructure modifications in progress. Please rely on physical navigation rather than digital guidance systems until further notice. This is a routine update. Routine update. Nothing routine about streets moving overnight. The alert disappeared before I could screenshot it. No notification in my history either. I took a different route home that night, convinced I was just overthinking things. Stressed as that makes you question basic reality. My therapist would have a field day with this one. After my wife died last year, I'd been seeing things sometimes. Grief plays tricks on your mind. The next morning, I pulled out my old physical map of Miami from the glove compartment. It was from 2018, but streets don't just move, right? At the office, I overlaid it with our current digital render. Not just Biscayne was wrong, dozens of streets were misaligned. Small shifts, nothing dramatic, but definite changes. The kind nobody would notice unless they were specifically looking for them. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Camila said, leaning against my cubicle. She's been my colleague for 3 years now, always brings coffee that's too strong and asks questions that are too personal. Today, I was grateful for both. "Do these streets look right to you?" I pushed the map toward her. She glanced at it briefly. "What am I looking for?" "Just, does anything look off?" Camila studied the map more carefully this time. "Huh. Wasn't there an intersection here?" She pointed to where 15th Street should have met 2nd Avenue. My skin went cold. "You take that route too?" "Sometimes, but I got lost yesterday. Ended up on some street I didn't recognize." She laughed nervously. "I've lived here my whole life, and suddenly I need GPS to get around my own neighborhood." I showed her the comparison with the old map. Her expression changed from curious to concerned. "Marcus, maps get updated all the time. Construction, redevelopment." "Not like this," I interrupted. "You can't just move entire streets overnight." "Well, whatever it is, I'm sure there's a logical explanation." She set a coffee on my desk. Try not to fall down a conspiracy rabbit hole, Mapmaster." She used my forum username teasingly, knowing I spent too much time on transit enthusiast websites. I didn't tell her about the emergency alert. By lunchtime, I'd compiled a list of 27 streets that had shifted position in the past month. Small changes, but consistent, all moving inward like the city was slowly contracting. That's when I decided to check the traffic cameras. Part of my job includes access to the network for transit planning. I pulled up footage from the supposedly moved intersections going back 3 months. What I saw made no sense. The footage from 2 months ago showed streets I recognized. The footage from last week showed the same street names, but the buildings were different. Subtly different, a blue awning instead of green, a tree where there hadn't been one before. The kind of changes you dismiss as faulty memory if you weren't looking for them. I was so absorbed in the footage that I almost missed the second alert. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Citizens are advised that street signage updates are in progress. Please report any navigational anomalies to 305, and this is not a cause for concern. This time I was quick enough to screenshot it. I dialed the number immediately, but it rang endlessly with no answer or voicemail. On my way home, I intentionally tried to find 15th Street again. This time, it was there, exactly where it had always been. I made the turn, but the street didn't lead where it should have. Instead of connecting to the highway entrance, it curved sharply and fed into what my GPS labeled as Palmer Avenue. But Palmer Avenue should have been 6 blocks north. I pulled over and got out of my car, heart pounding. The street sign definitely said 15th Street, but this wasn't my 15th Street. The buildings were wrong. The trees were wrong. Even the quality of the pavement felt wrong under my feet. A police cruiser slowed as it passed me. The officer inside, black, middle-aged, with the name tag Collins, eyed me suspiciously. "Everything okay, sir?" he called through his open window. "This street," I said, pointing at the sign. "It's in the wrong place." Officer Collins frowned. "Sir, have you been drinking?" "No, this street doesn't go this way. It should connect to the highway." He stepped out of his cruiser now, hand resting casually near his holster. "That would be 17th Street you're thinking of. This has always been a residential connection." "But my map," I fumbled for my phone. "Maps can be wrong," he said firmly. "Especially digital ones. Always trust what's in front of your eyes, sir." As he drove away, my phone buzzed with a third alert. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Infrastructure alignment protocol activated. Please remain in your designated district. Further instructions will follow. Sleep well, Miami. This one vanished even faster than the others. I took a different route home, hands shaking on the steering wheel. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with maps spread out, trying to make sense of what was happening. At 3:17 a.m., all the emergency alerts simultaneously reappeared on my phone for exactly 3 seconds before vanishing again. I've started this forum thread because I need to know if anyone else has noticed. Are the streets of Miami moving, or am I losing my mind? Has anyone else received these alerts? If I'm wrong, I can get help. But if I'm right, if the streets really are shifting, then something impossible is happening to our city. And someone doesn't want us to notice. I'll update when I know more. In the meantime, maybe stick to the routes you know by heart. And if you get lost, maybe it's not your fault. Edit, I'm heading to the Transit Authority archives tomorrow to check the historical maps. We'll update. Forum post, miamitransit.talk.com. User, Mapmaster, 3:05, 10:17 p.m. 4 responses to my last post. For people who've noticed something wrong with Miami streets, not much, but enough to know I'm not completely losing my mind. I spent today digging through the Transit Authority archives. The basement level of our building houses physical maps dating back to the 1950s. dusty relics that nobody's touched in years. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I spread decades of Miami's cartographic history across a metal table. The shifts didn't start recently. They've been happening gradually for at least 8 months. January's map shows Brickell Avenue exactly where it should be. By March, it had shifted 12 feet east. Now it's nearly 50 feet from its original position. The pattern holds for dozens of streets, all moving at different rates, different directions, but all definitely moving. While comparing the maps, my supervisor came down to the archives. I quickly covered the evidence with newer transit schedules. Marcus? Didn't expect to find you here. Mr. Delgado looked confused by my presence. Everything all right with the route updates? Just checking some historical references, I said. Thought it might help with the Biscayne Corridor project. He nodded, but his eyes lingered on the scattered papers. Don't spend too long down here. The air quality's not good. As he turned to leave, he paused. By the way, we've been getting unusual reports from drivers. GPS glitches, they say. Routes not matching the roads. My heart raced. What do you make of it? Probably solar flare activity. Disrupts the satellites. He shrugged. It's handling it. After he left, I photographed every map from the past year, paying special attention to the areas with the most significant shifts. I was so focused that I nearly missed lunch and my phone conversation with Camilla. Where are you? She texted. Thought we were grabbing Cuban sandwiches. I met her at our usual place, a corner cafe with windows facing the intersection of 8th Street and Douglas Road. As I approached, something felt wrong about the view. The buildings were correct, the traffic patterns familiar, but something about the angles was distorted, like looking at a street through imperfect glass. You look terrible, Camilla said as I sat down. Archives dust get to you? I showed her the photos of the maps. She studied them with increasing concern. Okay, this is weird, she admitted. But there must be an explanation. Maybe there's a problem with the printing process? Calibration drift? For 8 months? Across different printing batches? I shook my head. And that doesn't explain what I saw yesterday. Streets physically not being where they're supposed to be. Camilla bit her lip. Actually, something happened this morning. I was driving to my yoga class, same route I always take. But when I turned onto Coral Way, it didn't lead to the studio. It connected to some neighborhood I've never seen before. My mouth went dry. No. But she hesitated. The GPS kept recalculating. And the street signs, they looked new. Too new. I glanced out the window again. Across the street, 2 men in unmarked black uniforms were replacing a street sign. The old sign said Douglas Road. I couldn't see what the new one said. Look, I whispered, nodding toward them. Camilla turned. City workers? What's strange about it? When's the last time you saw street signs being replaced in broad daylight on a main road? No cones, no work truck, no safety vests. She watched more carefully now. The men finished installing the sign and walked away, not to a maintenance vehicle, but to a sleek black sedan with government plates. Okay, that is weird, she conceded. My phone buzzed. Another alert. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Comprehensive wayfinding update in progress. Disregard any perceived geographical inconsistencies. Trust only current street signage for your safety and convenience. I showed Camilla. Did you get this? She checked her phone. Nothing. Why am I the only one getting these? I muttered. Maybe because you work for transit? Some kind of internal notification system? That made sense, but didn't explain why nobody at work had mentioned similar alerts. I took a screenshot and forwarded it to Camilla. The message disappeared from her phone the moment it arrived. What the hell? She tried accessing her notification history. It's gone. After lunch, I decided to drive around the city, documenting the changes. I plotted a route that would take me past several of the most affected areas according to my map comparison. I brought my old GPS device, the kind that doesn't update automatically through the internet, and my smartphone for comparison. The discrepancies were immediate and jarring. My standalone GPS insisted I was driving through buildings that weren't there. My phone's map kept correcting itself, the streets redrawing in real time as if the software was struggling to match digital data with physical reality. Near the university, I spotted another street sign replacement in progress. This time, I parked and approached the workers. "Excuse me," I called. "I work for Miami-Dade Transit. Is there a schedule for these updates? We need to coordinate for our route planning." The two men exchanged glances. Neither wore any city identification. "Routine maintenance," the taller one said flatly. "You should have received the memo." "Which department are you with?" "Infrastructure Integrity," he replied, a designation I'd never heard of in 15 years of municipal work. "You should continue on your way, sir." As I turned to leave, I noticed something odd about the new street sign. The font was subtly different, sharper with slightly altered proportions, almost as if designed to be more efficient. Back in my car, another alert appeared. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Your attention to infrastructure changes has been noted. Continue with your standard routines. Anomaly reports are being processed. We know where you live, Marcus. My blood ran cold. This one used my name. And unlike the others, this message remained on my screen for a full minute before disappearing. On my way back to the office, I noticed increased police presence throughout the city. At 3 different intersections, officers stood watching the traffic flow with unusual intensity. At one light, I recognized Officer Collins from yesterday. Our eyes met briefly as I drove past. He spoke into his radio, never breaking eye contact. Back at my desk, I tried accessing the traffic camera network again, but my credentials had been revoked. "System upgrade in progress," the error message claimed. I called Camila at her desk. "Can you still access the traffic cams? Let me check." A pause. "That's strange. Says I need new authorization." As we spoke, I noticed a woman I'd never seen before walking through our department. Tailored suit, government lanyard, escorted by 2 security guards. She stopped at my supervisor's office. Through the glass walls, I watched as Mr. Delgado's expression shifted from confusion to concern as she spoke. They both looked in my direction. "I have to go," I told Camila quickly. "Meet me after work." "Not the usual place. Go to that cafe on Sunset, the one we went to for your birthday." I busied myself with mundane tasks as the woman left my supervisor's office. Instead of approaching my desk as I'd feared, she continued to the IT department. 20 minutes later, my computer automatically rebooted. When it came back online, all my saved maps were gone. At exactly 5:15 p.m., as I was packing to leave, all the emergency alerts simultaneously reappeared on my phone for exactly 5 seconds before vanishing again. But this time, there was a new one. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. A system stability test will be conducted tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. Citizens may experience momentary spatial disorientation. This is normal and expected. Do not report these occurrences. Do not trust Marcus Reyes. My own name telling people not to trust me. Either I'm the target of some elaborate gaslighting campaign or something far more sinister is happening to Miami. I'm writing this update from the cafe where I'm supposed to meet Camila. She's 15 minutes late. She isn't answering her phone, and outside the window, I swear the streets are subtly shifting position as I watch. If anyone reading this has connections to city planning, surveying, or emergency management, please check your systems. Something's wrong with Miami's geography, and I think tomorrow morning it's going to get much worse. Edit. Still waiting for Camila. The staff here say this cafe has always been on 47th Avenue, but this is Sunset Drive. I can see the street sign from where I'm sitting. Forum post, MiamiTransitTalk.com, user Mapmaster 305-1138 AM. Camila never showed up at the cafe last night. I called her apartment multiple times, then drove over there around 10 p.m. Her car was in its usual spot, but she wouldn't answer her door. I could see lights on inside, silhouettes moving about. When I tried calling her from outside, I heard her ringtone, but the call went to voicemail. Someone was in there with her. I left before I did something stupid like break in. This morning she was at her desk like nothing happened, insisting we never made plans to meet. Said she went straight home after work and spent the evening watching Netflix. Check your text messages, I told her. She pulled out her phone, showing me our conversation. The texts about meeting at the cafe were gone, replaced with mundane exchanges about work deadlines. Marcus, are you feeling okay? She looked genuinely concerned. You've been acting strange all week. I should have dropped it. Nodded and walked away. The maps, Camila. The street signs. You saw it too. Her expression hardened. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you should take a sick day. That's when I noticed the small white bandage on the back of her neck, partially hidden by her collar. When she saw me looking at it, she adjusted her hair to cover it completely. What happened to your neck? I asked. Dermatologist removed a mole, she said too quickly. It's nothing. I returned to my desk, feeling sick. Whatever's happening, it got to Camila, altered her somehow, or replaced her entirely. At 9:14 a.m., I remembered the alert from yesterday. The system stability test scheduled for 9:15. I pulled out my phone to document whatever was about to happen. At exactly 9:15, the fluorescent lights flickered, not just in our office, everywhere, citywide, as I would later discover. For approximately 3 seconds, everything shifted. The walls seemed to bend slightly. The floor appeared to ripple like liquid. My computer screen displayed fragments of code before returning to normal. Most disturbing of all, nobody else reacted. Coworkers continued typing, talking on phones, sipping coffee, as if nothing had happened. I glanced outside. On the street below, pedestrians moved without interruption, unaware that reality had momentarily glitched. My phone buzzed with an alert. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. System stability test completed successfully. Calibration at 94.7% efficiency. Some anomalies persist in quadrant 47A. Thank you for your patience, Marcus. Stop investigating. Again with my name. I took a screenshot, but when I checked my gallery later, the image showed a different message. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Routine test of the emergency alert system completed. This was only a test. I couldn't focus on work after that. I told my supervisor I wasn't feeling well and left the office. Instead of going home, I drove to the police station. I needed to talk to someone official, someone who might have answers or at least acknowledge that something was wrong. The Miami PD building looked different somehow. The same architecture, but the proportions seemed subtly off, as if the building had been stretched horizontally by a few feet. The flag above the entrance fluttered in a breeze I couldn't feel on my skin. Inside, I asked for Officer Collins. The desk sergeant looked at me suspiciously. Regarding what matter? Street infrastructure changes, I said, trying to sound official. I work for the transit authority. 10 minutes later, Collins appeared in the lobby. He recognized me immediately. The lost driver, he said. Found your way okay since then? I need to talk to you about the streets, I said. They're moving, changing position. His face remained impassive. Sir, if you're experiencing navigation issues, that's a matter for the Department of Transportation, not police. This isn't about navigation, I insisted. Something is physically changing the geography of Miami. Streets are shifting positions. Buildings are in the wrong places. Collins glanced around the lobby, then lowered his voice. Let's talk outside. He led me to a small courtyard behind the station where officers took smoke breaks. No cameras that I could see, no one else around. Listen carefully, he said. I don't know what you think you've discovered, but I strongly suggest you drop it. For your own safety. So you know something is happening? He looked away. What I know is that good people who ask questions about infrastructure changes tend to have accidents. Or their families do. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. His eyes met mine. Whatever you think is happening, it's bigger than you realize. Go home. Do your job. Forget about shifting streets. I can't. I've seen too much. Collins sighed. Then be careful who you talk to. And watch for the vans. What vans? Black utility vans, government plates, no markings. He took out a cigarette. They're not from any agency I recognize. As he lit up, I noticed something on his wrist, a thin red line like a fresh scar circling his entire wrist. What happened there? He pulled his sleeve down. Nothing happened. We're done here. I left the station more confused than when I arrived. Collins knew something, but he was afraid. The vans he mentioned, I'd seen them near the street sign replacements. I decided to drive around Miami again, documenting as much as possible with my phone's camera. This time, I focused on the areas where I'd spotted the most significant changes. My first stop was the intersection where 15th Street had disappeared 2 days ago. It was back now, but wrong. The street sign said 15th Street, but the buildings weren't residential anymore. They were commercial, shops, cafes, a pharmacy, all established businesses that looked like they'd been there for years. I distinctly remembered houses and apartment buildings. I parked and went into the pharmacy. The elderly pharmacist greeted me like a regular. Marcus, how's that prescription working out for you? I'd never been in this store before. I'd never seen this man before. Yet he knew my name. Fine, I said cautiously. How long has your pharmacy been here? He laughed. You know very well we've been here since your grandfather's time. 37 years next month. You coming to the anniversary sale? I mumbled something affirmative and left quickly. In my car, I pulled up Google Street View on my phone, searching for historical images of this intersection. The most recent ones showed exactly what I was seeing now, commercial buildings, but I found images from 2021 showing residential structures. The change was real, and somehow most people's memories had been updated to match, but not mine. As I drove away, I spotted it, a black utility van with government plates parked half a block down. As I passed, the driver lifted a small device that looked like a specialized camera. It emitted a brief flash that wasn't quite light, more like a ripple in the air between us. My car's electronics went haywire. The dashboard lit up with errors, the radio cycled through stations, and the GPS reset itself. By the time the systems recovered, the van was gone. I decided to drive to the university library. Their maps collection would be more comprehensive than the transit authorities, and I needed to verify what I'd seen in those historical Google images. On the way, my phone buzzed with another alert. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Citizens are reminded that the Cartographic Alignment Act prohibits unauthorized documentation of municipal geography. Violators subject to memory standardization. Your photo cache has been inspected and cleared, Marcus. When I checked my phone's gallery, all the photos I'd taken of street signs, intersections, and buildings were gone. At the library, I headed straight for the maps section. The student working the desk barely looked up from her textbook as I requested access to historical maps of Miami. She pointed me to a digital terminal. "Physical maps were digitized last year," she said. "You can search the database there." But the digital maps were useless. They'd all been updated to the current false geography. I needed the originals. "I really need to see the physical maps," I insisted. "For a research project. Tactile analysis of paper quality." She sighed. "Special collections, basement level. You'll need to sign in." The basement was cold and smelled of old paper and preservation chemicals. The map room was locked, but the attendant, an older man with thick glasses, let me in after I signed the visitor log. "Looking for anything specific?" he asked. "Miami street maps. Last 5 years. Especially Biscayne Boulevard and the downtown grid." He returned with a collection of rolled maps and spread them on the viewing table. I compared them meticulously, and there it was, definitive proof. Streets moving, shifting position incrementally over time. Not just my imagination. "Fascinating patterns, aren't they?" said a woman's voice behind me. I turned to find a slender woman in a tailored suit, the same one I'd seen at my office yesterday. Her ID badge said, "Dr. Elena Vega, DARPA." "The migrations are accelerating," she continued, studying the maps. "Your documentation has been quite helpful, Mr. Reyes." My throat went dry. "We've been watching the anomaly," she corrected. "You simply noticed it first. What's happening to Miami?" Dr. Vega smiled thinly. "Nothing that need concern you. Go home, Mr. Reyes. Delete your forum posts. Forget what you've seen." "Well, what? You'll make me forget? Like you did to Camila?" Something flashed in her eyes. Surprise, perhaps. "Your colleague made the wise choice to comply. I suggest you do the same." As she turned to leave, the emergency alert system on my phone activated again. But this time, it wasn't a text. It was a sound, a piercing, modulated tone that made my vision blur. Dr. Vega covered her ears. "That's not ours," she hissed, then ran from the room. The tone continued for exactly 7 seconds before cutting off. Then my phone displayed a message unlike the previous alerts. "Emergency override, frequency shift detected. Boundary integrity compromised." I'm writing this from a motel outside Miami city limits. I don't know if these alerts are automated system messages from whatever is changing our reality or communications from those trying to stop it. All I know is that tomorrow I'm going back into the city with a film camera, something that can't be hacked or remotely wiped. I need hard evidence. If I don't post again, look for the black fans. And whatever you do, don't trust the maps. Edit, there's a utility van in the motel parking lot. It wasn't there 5 minutes ago. I think they found me. Forum post, MiamiTransitTalk.com user, Mapmaster 305-322 p.m. I'm alive. That's the first thing you should know. The van outside my motel room last night wasn't there for me, or at least they didn't find me. I'd registered under a false name, paid cash, and switched rooms with a maintenance issue excuse soon after checking in. I spent the night on the floor of a storage closet, listening for footsteps that never came. At dawn, the van was gone. I bought a disposable film camera at a gas station convenience store and headed back into Miami. My phone kept losing signal, then reconnecting with full bars in places it shouldn't have had any reception at all. The GPS went haywire whenever I approached the city limits, so I navigated by the sun and my memory of the roads. Except memory isn't reliable anymore. Not in Miami. I tried entering the city from the north, thinking I'd follow 95 to downtown, but the highway exit I took, one I've used hundreds of times, didn't lead to 79th Street as it should have. Instead, I found myself in what appeared to be Little Havana, nearly 7 miles southwest of where I should have been. I pulled over and consulted my paper map, purchased just yesterday at the gas station. According to it, I was exactly where I thought I was, 79th Street. But the street signs, the buildings, the entire neighborhood was unmistakably Little Havana. A fruit vendor across the street noticed my confusion. "Está perdido?" he asked as I approached his stand. "Yes, very lost," I admitted. "This is Little Havana, right?" He nodded. "Calle Ocho. All life." I showed him my map, pointing to where I thought we were, 79th Street, miles away. No, he laughed. "That's not here. This is Calle Ocho, Southwest 8th Street. Always has been." As we spoke, I noticed something about the buildings around us. They looked authentic, weathered stucco, faded paint, decades-old signage, but something was off about the shadows they cast. The morning sun was behind me, casting my shadow forward, but some of the building's shadows fell at impossible angles, as if each structure had its own light source. I thanked the vendor and bought a mango I didn't want, then walked down the street taking photos with the disposable camera. I photographed street signs, storefronts, and particularly those wrong-angled shadows. Saw her. Dr. Vega from DARPA, standing across the street with what looked like a surveying team. They had set up tripods with equipment I didn't recognize, not standard surveying gear, but devices with multiple lenses and pulsing blue lights. One man held something resembling a tuning fork, but larger, which emitted a low hum I could feel in my molars. I ducked into a cafe before they spotted me. Through the window, I watched as Dr. Vega consulted a tablet, then pointed at various buildings. The man with the tuning fork device approached each indicated structure, held the device against the wall, and appeared to take readings. When they reached the corner, Dr. Vega looked directly at the cafe. I slid down in my seat, but her gaze seemed to pass over me. She consulted her tablet again, then pointed at something on the street, a manhole cover. Two team members immediately began to unseal it. I ordered a coffee to avoid suspicion and took the opportunity to eavesdrop on a conversation at the next table. Two elderly men playing dominoes. 3 times this week, one was saying, "I walked to church, same route 40 years. Now I end up at the marina instead." "Memory," his friend replied. "Getting old, like me, you forget the way." "I don't forget. The church moves. The streets, they change at night." "Gobierno," the second man whispered. "Experiments." My coffee arrived as my phone buzzed with another alert. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Gravitational microvariance detected in your vicinity. Proceed immediately to the nearest blue light station for reality calibration. This is not optional, Marcus. Blue light station? I looked back to where Dr. Vega's team had been working. The equipment on the tripods emitted pulsing blue light. Was that what the message referred to? I wasn't about to find out. I slipped out the cafe's back exit into an alley, then froze. The alley didn't lead where it should have. Instead of connecting to the parallel street, it opened onto what appeared to be a beachfront. Impossible. Little Havana is miles from the coast. I backed away slowly. When I turned around, the cafe door was gone, replaced by a blank wall. Heart pounding, I ran to the end of the alley where I'd seen the beach. It was still there, sand, waves, morning sunbathers, but the Miami skyline visible across the water was wrong. Buildings stood in impossible arrangements, some leaning at subtle angles that defied physics. I took several photos, then retreated down the alley, which now had a different exit opening onto a quiet residential street I didn't recognize. The street sign read Northeast 15th Street, which couldn't be right if I had been in Little Havana moments before. My phone buzzed again. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Reality seems detected in your vicinity. Stand still. Close your eyes. Count to 10. Breathe normally. A stabilization team is en route. I did the opposite. I ran. 3 blocks down, I spotted a familiar landmark, Domino Park. But it wasn't in the right place. According to every map of Miami, Domino Park is on 8th Street in Little Havana. This one stood where Walgreens should have been in Wynwood, nearly 4 miles away. The park was identical in every detail. Same layout, same tables, same elderly men playing dominoes. Were they the same men I'd seen in the cafe? Impossible to tell from this distance. That's when I noticed the pattern. Not just streets moving, but entire blocks, landmarks, neighborhoods, all relocating according to some incomprehensible algorithm. I pulled out my phone and drew a rough map of where things should be versus where I'd found them. The movements weren't random. They formed a spiral pattern with downtown Miami as the apparent center point. Everything was slowly rotating and contracting toward that center, like water circling a drain. I needed to get downtown, to the apparent center of the phenomenon. My car was gone, no surprise there, so I started walking, taking photos at each intersection. After about 20 minutes, I spotted a black van parked at a corner up ahead. I ducked into a convenience store and watched through the window. 2 men in black uniforms emerged from the van carrying what looked like oversized metal detectors. They swept the devices over fire hydrants, mailboxes, and street signs. When one of them approached the convenience store, I slipped into the back looking for another exit. Instead, I found a storeroom that smelled of mildew and old cigarettes. The clerk, an older Cuban woman, followed me. "No customers back here," she said firmly. "Please," I whispered, "there are men outside." "Recalibradors," she nodded. "They look for broken places." Broken places? Where worlds touch. She made a gesture like 2 hands sliding past each other. My grandmother called them reality seams, an old Santeria belief. "You know about this?" I was stunned. She pulled up her sleeve, revealing a thin red line circling her wrist, identical to the one I'd seen on Officer Collins. "They caught me 3 months ago," she said. "Did something to my head. I was supposed to forget the streets moving, but I remember. Not everything, but enough." A bell jingled as the front door opened. The clerk pushed me toward a back exit. "Go." They scanned for phones. "Turn yours off." I powered down my phone and slipped out the back, emerging onto a street that should have been a major boulevard, but was now a narrow lane lined with buildings that looked like they belonged in 1950s Cuba. I walked for what felt like hours through neighborhoods that kept shifting subtly around me. Street names changed as I passed them. Buildings rearranged themselves when I wasn't looking directly at them. The spiral pattern held, everything slowly circling and contracting toward downtown. As I approached the downtown area, the distortions became more pronounced. Office buildings leaned at impossible angles. Streets curved upward, defying gravity. Pedestrians walked normally through this impossible geometry, unaware or untroubled by what they were experiencing. At the corner of what should have been Biscayne Boulevard and Flagler Street, the historic center of Miami, I found a small plaza that hadn't existed yesterday. In its center stood a blue pillar about 10 feet tall with a pulsing light at the top. A blue light station, presumably. People lined up in front of it, stepping forward one by one to place their palms against its surface. Each time someone touched it, the light pulsed brighter, and the person walked away with a dazed expression. Watching from behind a newspaper stand, I noticed Dr. Vega again, supervising the process with her tablet in hand. Next to her stood Officer Collins, scanning the crowd. I shrank back, but not before spotting what appeared to be Camila in the line, waiting her turn at the pillar. My disposable camera was nearly full. I took the last few shots of the plaza, the pillar, the people in line, the evidence I needed. As I prepared to retreat and find somewhere to hide until I could get the film developed, my phone suddenly powered itself back on. A final alert appeared. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Convergence acceleration approved. All units prepare for reality consolidation phase. Target, Marcus Reyes acquired. Triangulating position. I looked up to see Officer Collins staring directly at me, speaking into his radio. Dr. Vega turned, following his gaze. Their eyes locked with mine across the plaza, and behind them the blue pillar's light changed from blue to red. I'm writing this from inside an abandoned store a few blocks away. The windows are covered with old newspapers providing some cover. I can hear sirens outside, not normal police sirens, but a modulated wail that seems to shift in and out of audible range. The pattern is clear now. Miami is collapsing in on itself, streets and landmarks spiraling towards some central point. And for some reason, I'm immune to whatever is making everyone else accept this as normal. I need to get this camera developed and the images uploaded. I need proof. If I don't make it, look for the spiral pattern in your own city. This might not be limited to Miami. Edit, they're outside. I can hear the humming of their devices through the wall. I don't think I have much time left. Forum post, MiamiTransitTalk.com user, Mapmaster 305-1117 AM. I've been awake for 36 hours straight. My hands are shaking as I type this. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to stay hidden or how much longer I'll be able to recognize what's real and what isn't. The boundaries are blurring. Miami is coming apart at the seams. After my last post, I barely escaped that abandoned store. The recalibradors, as the Cuban shopkeeper called them, broke through the back door just as I slipped out a narrow bathroom window. I heard them inside, those humming devices growing louder, vibrating through the walls. I ran 3 blocks before I dared to look back. No one was following me, at least no one I could see. I needed somewhere to develop the film from my disposable camera. Most photo labs are digital now, but I found an old camera shop in what should have been Coral Gables, but was somehow wedged between downtown skyscrapers. The elderly owner didn't seem to notice anything unusual about the city's geography. He promised 1 hour processing. While waiting, I ducked into a diner across the street. The waitress handed me a menu that listed prices in both dollars and what looked like some kind of credit system, reality points. When I asked about it, she just stared at me blankly. "Sir, we only accept US currency," she said, though I was pointing directly at the 15 RP listed next to a breakfast special. I ordered coffee, which arrived in a mug that kept shifting colors when I wasn't looking directly at it. Blue, green, red, blue again. The coffee itself tasted normal. My phone remained eerily silent, no more personalized emergency alerts. Either they'd lost track of me, or they no longer needed to track me this way. Neither possibility was comforting. The TV in the diner was tuned to a local news channel. The anchors discussed traffic patterns that made no sense, detours around streets that don't exist, alternate routes through neighborhoods that should be miles apart. The weather map behind them showed Miami as a spiral, exactly matching the pattern I'd noticed. Unusual gravitational currents continue to affect the greater Miami area, the meteorologist explained cheerfully. Remember to recalibrate your navigational devices at any blue light station before commuting. None of the other patrons seemed disturbed by this. When I returned to the camera shop, the owner handed me a sealed envelope with my developed photos. I paid quickly and left, finding a quiet park bench to examine them. My heart sank. Every single photo showed exactly what should have been there. Normal streets, normal buildings, normal Miami. No impossible angles. No misplaced landmarks. No shadows falling in contradictory directions. The photos showed Miami as it ought to be, not as I had experienced it. I flipped through them frantically, looking for any evidence of what I had seen. Nothing. Even the blue pillar in the downtown plaza appeared in the photo as just an ordinary sculpture. I was about to throw the useless photos away when I noticed something odd about the last one, the image of Dr. Vega and Officer Collins at the plaza. When I held it at an angle to the sunlight, faint lines became visible across their faces, like circuitry embedded just below the skin. I needed to find Camila. Last I'd seen, she was in line at that blue pillar. We've worked together at the Transit Authority for 3 years. If anyone would believe me, she would. I tried calling her cell, but got automated message. The person you are trying to reach has been temporarily removed from this reality node. Please try again after the next convergence cycle. That's when I realized I was being followed. A man in a gray suit, perfectly ordinary looking, was mirroring my movements from across the street. Every time I turned a corner, he would appear moments later. The strange thing was, he didn't seem to be trying to catch up to me, just maintaining the exact same distance. I ducked into the subway station at Government Center, swiping my transit pass. The turnstile displayed the message, reality calibration overdue, 37 hours. Proceed to nearest blue light station immediately. I ignored it and boarded the first train that arrived, not even checking where it was headed. The subway car was nearly empty except for an elderly woman knitting something that seemed to shift and change with every stitch. The transit map above the seats showed a Miami I didn't recognize, routes intersecting at impossible angles, stations in places that couldn't exist. 3 stops later, the train suddenly braked hard. The lights flickered and an announcement played. Attention passengers. This train is experiencing a reality convergence event. Please remain seated and close your eyes until the transition is complete. This is a standard procedure. Do not be alarmed. The elderly woman continued knitting, unbothered. I didn't close my eyes. Instead, I watched as the world outside the windows folded. The station platform bent and warped, stretching like taffy. Buildings beyond rearranged themselves. The sky briefly turned green. When it stabilized, we were above ground on elevated tracks that shouldn't exist in Miami's subway system. The city below was unrecognizable, a jumble of architectural styles from different eras, streets flowing in curves and spirals. I got off at the next stop, emerging onto a platform that connected directly to what appeared to be my office building at the Transit Authority. This was impossible. Our offices were nowhere near any subway line, yet here it was. And more disturbingly, my access badge worked. The security guard nodded at me as if nothing was unusual. Working late again, Mr. Reyes? Dr. Vega was looking for you earlier. I mumbled something and hurried to the elevator. My office was on the 7th floor, but the elevator panel now showed 23 floors in a building that should only have 12. I pressed 7. The elevator ascended smoothly, the floor numbers ticking by normally until it stopped at what the display claimed was the 7th floor. The doors opened to reveal my office floor, but dramatically altered. The layout was the same, but the ceiling was at least 30 feet high, with strange crystalline growths extending downward like stalactites. The walls pulsed subtly, breathing in and out. My colleagues worked at their desks as if nothing was amiss. I spotted Camilla at her workstation, typing calmly despite the fact that her computer monitor displayed what looked like fractal patterns rather than text. "Camilla," I whispered, approaching cautiously. She looked up, smiling. "Marcus, where have you been? You were worried." "Do you notice anything strange about the office?" I asked carefully. "Strange how? The ceiling? The walls? The fact that our building is suddenly connected to a subway station that shouldn't exist?" Her smile didn't waver, but her eyes flickered, like a video glitch, just for a split second. "You're overworked," she said. "Have you been to a blue light station recently? They're very relaxing." "Camila, listen to me. Something is happening to Miami. The streets are moving. Reality is breaking down. I think it's some kind of government experiment." She placed her hand on mine. Her skin felt normal, warm. "Marcus," she said gently, "Dr. Vega can explain everything. She's waiting for you in the conference room." A chill ran through me. "How do you know Dr. Vega? She doesn't work here." Camila's smile faltered. "Of course she does. She's been heading the reality stabilization project for years." "The what?" "Come on," she said, standing and tugging my hand. "She'll explain everything better than I can." Against my better judgment, I followed her down the hall to the conference room. With each step, I felt reality bending around me. The hallway stretched and contracted like a breathing thing. Doors appeared and disappeared along the walls. Camila seemed unaffected, walking confidently despite the unstable geometry. She opened the conference room door. Inside, Dr. Elena Vega sat at the head of the table exactly as I had seen her in the plaza. Her DARPA credentials hung around her neck, but now I could see the logo was different, not DARPA, but DERPA, Department of Emergency Reality Preservation Applications. "Mr. Reyes," she said calmly, "thank you for joining us. I believe you have questions." "What's happening to Miami?" I demanded. "Please, sit down," she gestured to a chair. "This will be easier if you're seated." I remained standing. "Tell me what's going on." She sighed. "Very well. Miami is experiencing what we call a simulation leak. The fundamental fabric of reality is thinning, allowing overlapping possibilities to coexist simultaneously." "A simulation? Like we're in a computer program?" "That's an oversimplification, but essentially correct. Reality is more fluid than most people understand. Usually, the rules hold firm. Occasionally, in certain locations, the boundaries weaken. And you're what, trying to fix it?" "We're trying to manage it," she corrected. "This phenomenon cannot be entirely reversed. The best we can do is stabilize the affected areas and help citizens adapt by brainwashing them at those blue light stations." Dr. Vega's expression hardened. "By adjusting their cognitive filters to accept the new reality. It's harmless, Mr. Reyes, and necessary for mental health. Why am I immune? Why do I see the changes when others don't?" She studied me with clinical interest. "Some individuals, roughly 0.01% of the population, have naturally resistant cognitive frameworks. You perceive the fluctuations because your mind refuses the automatic adjustments most people accept unconsciously. Is that why you've been tracking me? Why you send me personalized emergency alerts? We monitor all resistance for your safety and others. The transitional phase can be difficult without assistance." My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another alert. "Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Reality anchor point established at your office location. Stabilization radius 200 meters. Safe zone will collapse in 45 minutes. Evacuation recommended." Dr. Vega noticed my expression. "Another alert?" I showed her my phone. She frowned. I didn't authorize that message. She tapped rapidly on her tablet. Something's interfering with our systems. The building shuddered. A long crack appeared in the conference room wall, glowing with soft blue light. What's happening? Camila asked, her perfect composure finally breaking. Reality fracture, Dr. Vega muttered. The convergence is accelerating. She stood abruptly. Mr. Reyes, I need you to come with me immediately. Your resistant cognitive framework might be the key to stabilizing the anchor point. I'm not going anywhere with you. I backed toward the door. This isn't a request, she said sharply. Miami is collapsing into a singularity. Without proper management, the entire city could be lost between realities. As if to emphasize her point, the building shook again. The crack in the wall widened, revealing not the expected office hallway beyond, but what appeared to be a beach at sunset, despite it being nearly noon. The streets aren't just moving anymore, Dr. Vega said urgently. They're unraveling. Time and space are folding together. Another violent tremor. The lights flickered. My phone buzzed continuously now, a stream of alerts. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Reality anchors failing citywide. Convergence imminent. Seek shelter at nearest blue light station immediately. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Gravitational anomalies detected in downtown sector. Streets designated NW232 through SE107 temporarily relocated to probability matrix B7. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. This is not a drill. Reality cohesion at 27% and falling. All citizens must report to designated stabilization zones. Outside the conference room windows, I could see the Miami skyline warping, buildings stretching and compressing like reflections in a funhouse mirror. The sky cycled through colors, blue to purple to deep red. Dr. Vega grabbed my arm. We need to get to the central stabilization chamber. Now. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the only one who can still fix this, she hissed. The project wasn't supposed to progress this quickly. Something's accelerating the convergence. If we don't establish new anchor points in the next hour, there won't be a Miami left to save. I looked at Camila, who nodded urgently. Please, Marcus, go with her. Another tremor, stronger than before. The crack in the wall expanded, now taking up half the room. Through it, I could see not just the beach, but other impossibilities, a snowy forest, a desert, a cityscape that resembled Miami, but with subtle, wrong differences. What happens to people when streets relocate? I asked. Dr. Vega's expression darkened. They relocate too, not always intact. My decision was made for me when the floor beneath us suddenly vanished. We fell, all three of us, through fractured layers of reality. I'm writing this from what appears to be the 15th floor of my office building, a floor that shouldn't exist. I can see multiple versions of Miami outside, layered atop each other like transparent slides. The streets below shift and reconfigure constantly. Emergency vehicles with strange, angular designs race through, their sirens a modulated wail that makes my teeth hurt. Dr. Vega and Camila disappeared during the fall. I don't know if they landed in the same reality slice I did. My phone still works somehow, connecting to an internet that spans multiple versions of the city. I don't know if anyone is still reading these posts. I don't know if MiamiTransitTalk.com even exists in this particular reality strand, but I need to document what's happening. The blue light stations are everywhere now, on every corner, pulsing in sync. People line up at them calmly despite the chaos around them. After each touch, they walk away with the same blank expression, seemingly oblivious to streets that twist like snakes beneath their feet. I think I understand now. The blue light doesn't just make people accept the new reality, it actively shapes it. Collective belief stabilizing unstable space-time. Dr. Vega wasn't trying to fix anything. The reality stabilization project isn't about restoring Miami to normal, it's about controlling what form the new reality takes. And I'm immune. My resistant cognitive framework makes me useless to them. I can see the truth, but I can't be programmed to reinforce their preferred version of reality. That makes me either very valuable or very dangerous. I think I hear them coming down the hall now. The humming devices, the recalibrators. If I don't post again, look for the signs in your own city. Emergency alerts about unusual traffic patterns, streets that seem to have changed overnight, buildings where they shouldn't be. It might not be just Miami after all. They're at the door. User Mapmaster305 is currently offline. Forum post, MiamiTransitTalk.com. User Mapmaster305, 7:49 p.m. I'm still alive. 3 days have passed since my last post. At least, I think it's been 3 days. Time has become as unreliable as geography in this fractured version of Miami. They didn't get me when they came to the door. As the recalibrators burst in, the floor beneath me shifted. One moment I was cornered in an office that shouldn't exist, the next I was falling through what felt like cold gelatin, landing hard on the roof of a completely different building 10 blocks away. I vomited for nearly 5 minutes afterward. Reality displacement sickness, I suppose. The Miami around me now is barely recognizable. The spiral pattern I identified earlier has tightened dramatically. Streets don't just relocate overnight, they twist and writhe like living things, buildings sliding along them like beads on a string. The sky cycles through impossible colors every few hours, normal blue, then green, then a deep purple that makes my eyes water. Most disturbing of all, I've started to see the seams. They appear as hairline fractures in the air itself, usually at points where reality seems particularly strained, intersections where streets meet at impossible angles, or buildings that flicker between different architectural styles. The fractures glow with the same blue light as the stabilization pillars that now occupy every major corner and plaza. I've been moving constantly, avoiding capture, sleeping in abandoned buildings that phase in and out of existence, eating from vending machines that sometimes dispense food, from what must be alternate realities, brands I've never heard of, flavors that shouldn't exist. My phone has become something else entirely. The screen displays normal apps and functions, but they no longer work as expected. The camera takes photos of places I've never been. The Maps app shows a Miami with an entirely different street layout, perhaps a version of the city from another timeline. The only function that works reliably is the emergency alert system, which now sends messages continuously. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Reality cohesion at 19% and falling. Mandatory stabilization now in effect. All citizens report to blue light stations immediately. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Temporal flux detected in Brickell District. Tuesday will be repeated until further notice. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Be advised the sun may appear in the west tomorrow. This is a temporary anomaly. Do not be alarmed. Yesterday. If yesterday has any meaning anymore, I watched the sun rise in the west, set in the north, then rise again in the east, all within 6 hours. The people of Miami move through this chaos with vacant expressions, their eyes glassy and unfocused. At designated intervals, they line up at the blue light stations, place their palms against the pillars, receive their reality calibration, and continue about their business. Their faces flicker occasionally, revealing a circuit-like pattern beneath their skin, just like what I saw in the photograph of Dr. Vega and Officer Collins. I've been avoiding the pillars, but it's getting harder. They've multiplied across the city, and mobile units now patrol the streets, floating blue spheres that emit the same light, scanning for uncalibrated citizens. Last night, I nearly got caught. I was sheltering in what had once been a public library, but now seemed to be some hybrid of library and aquarium, books on shelves that curved through giant water tanks containing bizarre, luminescent fish. As I dozed between the marine biology section and a jellyfish display, a patrol of recalibradors entered. They moved methodically through the building, their devices humming at a frequency that made my fillings vibrate. I slipped between rows of books, trying to reach the emergency exit when I collided with someone hiding behind the reference desk. Officer Collins. I nearly cried out, but he clamped a hand over my mouth and pulled me into a maintenance closet. We crouched in silence as the recalibradors passed by. "What are you doing here?" I whispered when they were gone. "I thought you were one of them." Collins looked terrible, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, uniform torn and stained. The circuit-like pattern I'd seen in the photograph was now visible on his face, without special lighting, pulsing faintly beneath his skin. "I was," he said hoarsely. "They got me early. First wave of calibrations. But you're hiding from them now?" He nodded. "Something went wrong with my last calibration." I started remembering, seeing the changes. He gestured vaguely at the impossible architecture around us. "This isn't right. None of it. Why are they doing this? What's the point of all this reality manipulation?" "It's not manipulation," Collins said. "It's disintegration. The reality anchor failed. Dr. Vega mentioned that reality anchors. What are they?" Collins's expression darkened. Government project. Top secret. They built a machine under downtown Miami, supposedly to stabilize reality locally, prevent natural disasters by reinforcing space-time. That doesn't make any sense. "It made sense to someone with enough funding," he said bitterly. "But the machine didn't stabilize anything. It punched a hole straight through the fabric of reality. Now everything's bleeding together, different versions of Miami from parallel timelines, overlapping and collapsing." My phone buzzed with a new alert. "Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Reality anchor failure now at critical level. Convergence acceleration approaching singularity. All citizens must report to designated safety zones. This is not a drill." Collins glanced at my phone. "They can't stop it anymore. The calibrations are just keeping people calm while reality falls apart around them. Is there any way to fix this? To restore things?" He hesitated. "Vega thinks so. She's gathering uncalibrated resistance like you. People whose minds naturally reject the reality shifts. To do what? She needs your cognitive frameworks to rebuild the anchor, like using your brains as the foundation for a new reality." The chill ran through me, and what happens to us in the process? Collins couldn't meet my eyes. "I don't know, but I overheard enough to know it's not something you volunteer for." We were interrupted by another reality shift, the maintenance closet suddenly expanding into what appeared to be an airplane hangar. The shelves of cleaning supplies stretched and morphed into aircraft maintenance equipment. Through massive doors at the far end, I could see ocean where there should have been runways. "They're getting worse," Collins muttered. "More frequent, larger scale." "We need to find Camila," I said. "My colleague. She was with Dr. Vega when everything fell apart." "If she was with Vega, she's probably at the central facility, the origin point of all this mess. Can you take me there?" Collins hesitated. "It's suicide. The place is crawling with recalibradors, and the reality distortions are most severe at the center point." "I need to find her," I insisted. and maybe we can stop this somehow. He sighed heavily. We'll need to cross the city. With reality shifting like it is, I don't know if that's even possible anymore. My phone buzzed again. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Attention, Marcus Reyes. This is Dr. Elena Vega. I know you can see what's happening. I need your help to fix it. Come to the Spiral Center. Follow the blue fractures. Find me before it's too late. Collins read the message over my shoulder. It's a trap. Maybe, I agreed, but what choice do we have? The whole city is coming apart. As if to emphasize my point, a tremendous crack echoed across the sky. We rushed to the hangar doors and looked out at the Miami skyline, or what remained of it. Buildings rippled like reflections in water, streets coiled and unwound in hypnotic patterns. And above it all, a vast blue fracture had opened in the sky itself, revealing what looked like another city beyond, a Miami that was both familiar and alien. Jesus, Collins whispered. We need to move, I said. Now. We set out across the shattered landscape of Miami, following the blue fractures that grew more numerous as we traveled toward downtown. The journey was nightmarish, streets that terminated in mid-air, buildings that phased in and out of existence, entire blocks that repeated endlessly like a skipping record. We passed hundreds of people standing in perfect geometric formations around blue light pillars, their faces blank, bodies swaying slightly as the light pulsed over them. None reacted as we passed. They're not even people anymore, Collins murmured. Just placeholders, reality scaffolding. Halfway to downtown, we encountered a military checkpoint or something masquerading as one. The soldiers wore familiar uniforms, but their movements were too fluid, too synchronized. Their faces bore the same circuit patterns I'd seen on Collins, but more pronounced, more complete. We need to go around. Collins pulled me behind an abandoned bus. Too late. One of the soldiers spotted us, but instead of raising an alarm, he approached alone, his movements strangely hesitant. Marcus, the soldier called softly. I froze. I knew that voice. The soldier removed his helmet, revealing Camilla's face, but changed. The circuit patterns covered half her features, and her left eye glowed with the same blue light as the stabilization pillars. Camilla? What did they do to you? Not they, she said, her voice fluctuating between her own and something mechanical. We are becoming the new anchor, the new stability. What does that mean? I demanded. Reality needs a framework, she said, gesturing toward the fracturing city around us. Dr. Vega found a solution. We become the framework. Our minds linked together, holding reality in place. Collins drew his service weapon. Stay back. Camilla smiled sadly. It doesn't hurt, Marcus. And it's necessary. The alternative is complete disintegration. Not just Miami, everything. More soldiers approached behind her, moving with that same unnatural synchronization. Run, Collins urged. I'll hold them off. They won't hurt us, Camilla said. They need us intact. Especially you, Marcus. Your resistant mind, it's the key to everything. My phone vibrated with one final alert. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Final convergence imminent. All reality anchors prepare for synchronization. Marcus Reyes, you cannot escape what's coming. You can only choose to face it consciously or not. The sky fractured completely, revealing a swirling vortex of blue energy directly above downtown Miami. Streets began to lift from the ground, coiling upward like ribbons toward the vortex. Choose now, Camilla said, extending her hand. Conscious integration or forced calibration. Collins raised his gun but hesitated. I looked from him to Camilla. then to the disintegrating city around us. The blue fractures in reality were everywhere now, connecting like veins across the landscape, all flowing toward the center. I made my decision. Connection lost. User Mapmaster305 has entered a no-coverage zone. Audio transcript found smartphone recording Marcus Reyes timestamp corrupted. If anyone finds this, if anyone's still out there, this is Marcus Reyes, former Miami Transit Authority map coordinator. I'm recording this because I can no longer access the internet. Reality has degraded too far for digital networks to function properly. My phone only works for basic functions now, camera, voice recorder, and somehow it still receives those damn emergency alerts. I chose to run. When Camila offered her hand, her partially transformed circuit-veined hand, I made my choice. I turned and ran, pulling Officer Collins with me. We ducked into an alleyway that twisted upward at an impossible angle, defying gravity. I remember looking back to see Camila watching us, her expression not angry, but pitying. That was, I don't know. Time has become meaningless. My watch says it's been 2 days, but the sun has risen and set at least 7 times since then. Collins is gone now. We got separated during a particularly violent reality shift. The ground between us simply vanished, replaced by a churning vortex of blue energy. I shouted his name as he was pulled toward it, but my voice seemed to bend and distort in the air. The last thing I saw was his face, the circuit pattern spreading visibly across his skin as the vortex enveloped him. I'm alone now, hiding in what I think was once the Miami-Dade History Museum. The exhibits have changed. Displays show events that never happened: a Cuban-American War in 1994, the secession of Florida in 2010, a technological golden age beginning in 1973 with the invention of something called quantum resonance computing. From the windows, I can see what's left of downtown Miami. It's indescribable. Imagine a city center being slowly pulled into the sky, buildings stretching and distorting as they're drawn upward. Streets now run vertically in places, with cars and people somehow still traversing them, as if gravity had locally reoriented. The blue fractures are everywhere, pulsing in sync like a vast circulatory system. And at the center of it all, where I think the government center once stood, is a massive structure that definitely wasn't there before, a towering blue spire that seems to phase in and out of existence, surrounded by smaller pillars arranged in concentric circles. The spiral center that Dr. Vega mentioned, I presume. My phone just buzzed with another alert. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Reality anchor reconstruction at 67%. Structural integrity failing in outer zones. All citizens in sectors 12 to 47 must report to nearest stabilization hub immediately. Miami will be reborn. The alerts have changed tone recently. Less clinical, more evangelical. Miami will be reborn. What does that even mean? I've been watching the people on the streets below, or what used to be streets. They move with strange, synchronized precision now, all heading toward the central spire. Their skin glows faintly with blue circuit patterns. Not just a few people anymore, everyone I can see, except me. I should explain what I've learned since my last communication. After Collins and I escaped Camilla and her soldier things, we managed to find temporary shelter in an abandoned construction site, though abandoned isn't quite right. It was more like the workers had simply vanished mid-task, leaving tools floating in mid-air, concrete half-poured. Collins told me everything he knew. The Reality Stabilization Project wasn't just about preventing natural disasters. It was an experiment in restructuring space-time itself. The government or some shadow agency within it, had discovered that reality was more malleable than physics had ever suggested. With the right technology, they could strengthen weak points in the fabric of space-time, potentially preventing earthquakes, hurricanes, even altering weather patterns. Miami was chosen as the test site due to its unique geomagnetic properties. They built the reality anchor deep beneath Government Center, a massive machine designed to pin local reality in place, making it resistant to changes or disruptions. It worked briefly. Minor reality fluctuations were successfully stabilized, but then something went catastrophically wrong. Instead of reinforcing reality, the anchor began to fracture it. Different possible versions of Miami started bleeding into each other, streets relocated, buildings changed. The very rules of physics became inconsistent across the city. Dr. Vega's team scrambled for a solution. The blue light stations were their first attempt, a way to adjust human perception to accept the new, unstable reality without psychological breakdown. It was meant to be temporary, a stopgap while they repaired the anchor, but they couldn't repair it. The damage was too severe, the fracturing too advanced. So Vega conceived a new plan. If mechanical technology couldn't hold reality together, perhaps biological technology could. Human minds networked together could become a living reality anchor. That's what's happening now. The recalibrators aren't just adjusting people's perceptions anymore, they're converting people into components of a vast biological network designed to stabilize a collapsing reality, a desperate solution for a desperate situation. But at what cost? Complete loss of individuality? The erasure of free will? And who decides what version of reality becomes the correct one? Sound of breaking glass in the recording. Something's happening outside. The spire at the center of the city is pulsing more rapidly now, the blue light intensifying. The buildings around it are, they're melting, flowing upward like liquid, being absorbed into the spire itself. The museum is shaking. Exhibits are falling over. That display case just vanished, replaced by a window that wasn't there before, showing a view of Miami Beach that's impossible from this location. My phone won't stop buzzing. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Critical phase initiated. Reality harmonization at 72%. Outlier detected in historical sector. Marcus Reyes, your resistance threatens the stability of New Miami. Final opportunity for voluntary integration. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Attention all citizens, the rebirth approaches. Those not connected to the spiral network will not survive the transition. This is your final warning. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Marcus, this is Elena. Please, we need you. Your mind is the key to stabilizing the network. Without you, the pattern is incomplete. Everyone will be lost. That last one, it feels different, more personal. Is it really Dr. Vega? Or some algorithm mimicking her to lure me in? Loud rumbling sound in the recording. The floor is breaking apart. Blue light is seeping through the cracks. I need to move. Sounds of running, heavy breathing. I've made it to the roof. The view from here, my God. Miami is being unmade. Entire neighborhoods are dissolving into swirling patterns of blue energy, flowing toward the central spire. The sky isn't sky anymore. It's a kaleidoscope of overlapping realities, each one visible through fractures in the air itself. I can see other versions of the city superimposed over each other, a Miami made entirely of gleaming white stone, a flooded Miami with buildings rising from the water, a Miami of impossibly tall, slender towers that bend like reeds in the wind, all of them being pulled into the same convergence point. There are people flying through the air now, not falling, flying, their bodies elongated, trailing streams of blue light as they're drawn toward the spire. Their movements are synchronized, purposeful. They're not victims, they're participants. I think I see Camila among them, her form only vaguely human now, mostly transmuted into patterns of light and data. Officer Collins, too, his uniform melded into his skin, which glows with completed circuit patterns. Sound of structure collapsing. The building beneath me is starting to break apart. I don't have much time. I see Dr. Vega now. She's hovering at the top of the central spire, her body transformed into something both more and less than human, a nexus of blue light in the vague shape of a woman, surrounded by flowing streams of data and energy. She's looking at me. Across an impossible distance through the chaos of a disintegrating city, she's looking directly at me. I can feel her attention like a physical pressure. My phone buzzed one last time. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Marcus, this is your final chance. The collapse has begun. Without complete integration, the network will fail. Reality itself will unravel. Not just Miami, everything, everywhere. Come to me now. The roof beneath my feet is dissolving into particles of blue light. In moments, there will be nothing left to stand on. I have to decide. Join Vega's network, surrender my mind to save what? A twisted version of reality controlled by whatever entity emerges from this convergence, or resist until the end, maintaining my identity even as reality collapses around me. Sound of wind rushing, structure breaking apart. The choice is being made for me. The museum is gone. I'm falling or flying toward the central spire. Blue tendrils of energy are reaching for me, trying to pull me in. I can feel their touch on my mind, cold, alien, but also familiar somehow. Camila is approaching through the air, her half-transformed body glowing with internal light. Her hand is outstretched. It doesn't hurt, her voice sounds in my head rather than my ears. It's beautiful, Marcus. We're becoming something greater. We're saving everything. Behind her, I can see Dr. Vega at the spire's peak, her arms spread wide as she conducts this symphony of reality's destruction and rebirth. I'm recording this final message as I fall. If anyone finds this, if reality somehow survives this convergence, know that Miami wasn't destroyed by a hurricane or rising seas or any natural disaster. It was sacrificed, its people, its streets, its very existence, for some grand experiment in reality manipulation that went horribly wrong. The blue light is surrounding me now. I can feel it, probing at my mind, seeking entry. My thoughts are becoming difficult to burst of static. I see it now. Recording ends. File recovered from damaged smartphone found floating in Biscayne Bay, May 2nd, 2025. No trace of Marcus Reyes has been found. Forum post, Miami Reality Collapse Forum user. Mapman Mia time, unknown. I don't know if this will reach anyone. The forum keeps glitching, posts appearing and disappearing like the streets themselves. If you're reading this, I'm still alive. For now. It's been 3 days since I fled the museum. 3 days since I was nearly absorbed into Dr. Vega's network. 3 days of hiding, running, and witnessing reality crumble around me. I found an intact cafe with working power, some pocket of stability in this chaos. The computers still connect to something resembling the internet, though not our internet. Pages load with information from timelines that never existed. News sites report on President McConnell's third term. Weather forecasts predict blue rainfall with 100% certainty every day. The emergency alerts haven't stopped. Emergency notification Miami-Dade County. Network stability at 78%. Outlier elements continue to disrupt harmonization. All citizens report unintegrated individuals to nearest spiral center immediately. Resistance endangers the transition. I've learned to silence my phone, but the alerts come through anyway, blaring from nearby speakers, appearing on screens, sometimes simply manifesting as text on walls or floating in midair. There's no escaping them. Yesterday, I encountered Officer Collins again, or something wearing his face. I was hiding in an abandoned parking garage, the kind that would have once been filled with commuters' vehicles, but now housed twisted sculptures of metal and glass that might have been cars in some other reality. The structure itself was relatively stable, the concrete only occasionally rippling like water. He found me on the third level, standing perfectly still in the shadows. I nearly missed him. "Marcus," he said, his voice unnaturally flat. "The network is incomplete without you." His skin was entirely covered in the blue circuit patterns now, pulsing in rhythm with distant tremors shaking the building. His police uniform had merged with his body, badges and insignias now raised welts on his flesh. "Collins," I whispered, backing away slowly. "Are you still in there?" He tilted his head at an impossible angle, nearly 180 degrees. "Darius Collins has been optimized. I retain his memories but serve a greater purpose now. Dr. Vega sent me to find you." "What do you want from me?" I asked, though I already knew. "Your mind contains the final pattern sequence. You see connections others don't. It's why you noticed the street changes first. Your spatial cognition is uniquely suited to stabilize the network." I kept backing away, but behind me I heard the concrete begin to bubble and shift. The exit was sealing itself off. "You've seen what's happening," not Collins continued. "Reality is collapsing. Without complete integration, the fractures will spread beyond Miami. Eventually, they'll consume everything. And after integration, what happens to us, to me?" His face tried to smile, the expression mechanical, unpracticed. "You become part of something greater. Individuality is an illusion anyway, Marcus. An evolutionary artifact that's outlived its usefulness." That's when I noticed something odd, a flicker in his circuit patterns when he mentioned Dr. Vega's name, a momentary disruption like static on an old TV. I took a chance. Is Vega really in control of this network? Or is something else using her? Using all of you? The patterns on his skin pulsed erratically. His expression froze, then reset. "Dr. Vega is the core architect. She guides the..." Another flicker, stronger this time. His voice distorted. "Help, Marcus, not what we thought." For just a moment, I saw the real Collins fighting through, his eyes clear, desperate. But it passed quickly, the circuit stabilizing, his posture straightening. "Disregard that anomaly. Come with me to the spiral center. Dr. Vega is waiting." Instead, I lunged past him toward a maintenance door I had spotted earlier. As I ran, the floor beneath Collins liquefied, pulling him downward. He didn't resist, simply staring at me as he sank into the concrete, his expression returning to that empty, almost smile. "We'll find you," his voice echoed as his head disappeared below the surface. "There's nowhere in Miami that isn't Miami now." This morning, I tried to make contact with anyone still unaffected. I found a functioning radio in an electronics store and broadcast on every frequency describing what I've learned and asking for help. 4 hours, nothing but static. Then, finally, a response. Coordinates can't hold position long. 20 survivors, government team, immunity. The transmission was weak, breaking up every few words, but it gave me the location, a yacht club on Biscayne Bay that somehow still exists despite the bay itself having partially transformed into a viscous blue gel. I made it within a mile before hitting a dead zone, a section of city where reality has degraded so completely that physical laws no longer function consistently. Gravity reverses randomly, matter phases in and out of existence, light bends around objects that aren't there. That's when I encountered a welcome face, Camila. Not the transformed circuit-veined version that had tried to convert me before, but something closer to the Camila I knew. She was hiding in an abandoned gas station, its pumps dispensing a luminescent blue fluid instead of gasoline. "Marcus," she whispered urgently, pulling me inside. "Thank God you're still you." Her appearance startled me. One arm still showed the blue circuit patterns, but they were faded, incomplete. Her eyes were clear, though ringed with exhaustion. "Camila, how are you still yourself?" She showed me a device strapped to her unaffected arm, a crude-looking assemblage of wires and components centered around what appeared to be a small blue crystal. "Dampening device," she explained. "Some of the scientists who worked with Vega saw what was happening and defected. They built these to block the network's influence. But your arm. I was partially integrated before I escaped," she said grimly. "The dampener stopped the process, but couldn't reverse it. Sometimes I can feel the network calling me, especially near the spiral centers." We compared notes quickly. Camila had been working with a small resistance group, mostly former government scientists and military personnel who recognized something had gone catastrophically wrong with the reality stabilization project. They'd established a temporary safe zone at the yacht club, protected by multiple dampening devices. "They think they can reverse this," she told me, her voice tight with desperate hope. "But they need to understand exactly what happened. You were there at the beginning, Marcus. You noticed the changes first. And Vega wants you specifically. That has to mean something." Before I could respond, every screen in the gas station lit up simultaneously with an emergency alert. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Attention citizens. Evacuation routes have been established. Proceed immediately to the following coordinates for safe passage out of affected areas: Northwest 7th Avenue and 62nd Street, Brickell Avenue and Southeast 13th Street, Biscayne Boulevard and Northeast 36th Street, Coral Way and Southwest 32nd Avenue. Camila's face went pale. "Those aren't evacuation points. They're spiral centers, integration points." As if to confirm her words, another alert immediately followed. "Correction, previous alert contained errors. Disregard coordinates. All citizens must remain in place. Help is coming." Then a third. Emergency notification, U.S. Department of Defense. This is not a test. Miami-Dade County is under quarantine. All unaffected citizens must avoid individuals displaying blue markings or unusual behavior. Do not approach government buildings or emergency personnel. They are compromised. Await further instructions. The alerts are fighting each other, I realized. Different entities trying to control the emergency system? Camila nodded. The network doesn't have complete control yet. There are still pockets of resistance, like the military cordon they've established around the city perimeter. "We need to get to the yacht club," I said. "If your people really can reverse this." The ground rumbled violently, cutting me off. Through the windows, we could see a massive shift happening. Buildings stretching, streets rearranging themselves. In the distance, another spiral center was forming, blue energy coalescing into a towering structure. "We need to move," Camila urged. As we prepared to leave, a final alert appeared, this one different from the others. Instead of text, it showed an image, a map of Miami, but not the Miami I knew. The streets formed an elaborate spiral pattern, all converging on a central point. Superimposed over the image were the words, "The pattern must be completed." Beneath it, in smaller text that flickered rapidly between English and something that resembled no language I'd ever seen. "Marcus Reyes. Final coordinate. Come home." Camila grabbed my arm. "Don't look at it too long. The visuals can affect you even with the dampener." We left the gas station just as it began to transform, its walls becoming transparent, revealing glimpses of other realities behind them, a version of the same station underwater, another engulfed in flames, a third overtaken by strange vegetation. The journey to the yacht club would take us through the heart of a collapsing city. Already the streets ahead were beginning to shift and blur. Reality itself seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for my next move. Camila handed me a crude dampener of my own, their last one. "The Resistance needs you alive, Marcus. You might be the only one who can make sense of what Vega was really trying to do." As I strapped the device to my wrist, my phone buzzed one final time. Emergency notification, unknown source. "You cannot stop what's coming, Marcus. The streets know where they should be now. Miami will be reborn as the template. And then the world." The message was signed simply Elena. But as I looked more closely at the signature, the letters rearranged themselves into a different word entirely. Spiral. We stepped into the distorted streets, the dampeners humming against our skin as reality itself tried to rewrite us with each step. Audio transcript, Resistance secure channel location, Coconut Grove Yacht Club time unknown. Static sound of waves. "This is Marcus Reyes recording for the Resistance archives. If you're hearing this, it means the dampeners are still working. It means someone's still out there. It means there's still hope. We never made it to the yacht club. That's not where I am now." I need to be clear about that in case this recording falls into the wrong hands. The place names don't match reality anymore anyway. Camila and I were halfway there when the sky tore open. There's no other way to describe it. A vertical fracture appeared above downtown, stretching from the clouds to the ground like a jagged lightning bolt frozen in time. Through the tear, we could see something else. Not stars, not sky, but a writhing mass of blue energy patterns, an infinitely complex circuit board extending beyond vision. The effects were immediate. Every electronic device within sight activated simultaneously. Car alarms, store displays, smartphones and abandoned vehicles, all displaying the same message. Breach detected. Dimensional integrity compromised. Spiral protocol accelerated. Camila's dampener started to smoke. The circuits on her affected arm flared brightly, causing her to cry out in pain. She fell to her knees, clutching her wrist as the blue patterns began to spread again, creeping past the dampener's influence. "It's getting stronger," she gasped. "The dampeners can't hold much longer." I tried to help her up, but she pushed me away. "No, stay back. I can feel it trying to take over. The network, it's calling me." Her eyes flickered normal one moment, glowing blue the next. She was fighting it, but losing ground fast. "Marcus, listen to me," she said, her voice strained. "The yacht club is compromised. The coordinates I gave you, it's a trap. They got to our group yesterday. I'm the only one who escaped." "Then where do we go?" "The university? The physics building. Sub-basement level. There's..." She screamed suddenly, the blue pattern surging up her neck. When she spoke again, her voice had that same mechanical flatness I'd heard from Collins. "Marcus Reyes, the spiral welcomes your return." I backed away as Camilla's face smoothed into that same empty smile. Her body moved with unnatural precision as she stood. "Your resistance is admirable but unnecessary," she said, the voice no longer entirely Camilla's. "You've seen how the streets have remade themselves. A perfected pattern. Why fight against perfection?" Behind her, I could see people emerging from buildings and alleyways, dozens of them, all moving with the same synchronized precision, all covered in glowing blue circuits. They formed a semicircle, cutting off my escape routes. Then I heard it, a voice coming from all of them simultaneously. "Marcus." Dr. Elena Vega stepped through the crowd, or what had once been Dr. Vega. Her form was only vaguely human now, her body translucent, blue energy coursing through her like blood. Her feet didn't quite touch the ground. "You've led us on quite a chase," she said, her voice somehow both directly in my ears and inside my head. "But it's time to come home now. The final phase has begun." She gestured toward the sky breach. "Reality is thin here. The boundaries between dimensions weaken by the hour. Soon the transformation will be irreversible." "What are you trying to do?" I demanded. "What happens when your pattern is complete?" Vega smiled, her teeth gleaming blue. "Transcendence. Evolution. The next step for humanity. We've been constrained by physical laws, by the limitations of three-dimensional space. The spiral frees us from those constraints." "The spiral?" I repeated. "Not you. You're not in control anymore, are you?" Something flickered across her face, uncertainty, perhaps even fear. "I am the primary node, the architect, but not the designer," I pressed. "Something else is using you. Using all of you." The crowd shifted uneasily, their synchronized movements momentarily disrupted. Vega's form glitched, her image breaking apart and reassembling. "Irrelevant," she finally said. "The outcome benefits all. The spiral has shown me visions of what we become, a collective consciousness unconstrained by physical limitations. Imagine, Marcus, no more death, no more separation. Unity. Perfect understanding, at the cost of everything that makes us human. Humanity is merely a transitional state." She floated closer, extending a hand that pulsed with blue light. "I can show you. Just a glimpse of what awaits us." My dampener began to whine, a small blue crystal at its center vibrating violently. It wouldn't hold against whatever Vega had become. That's when the emergency alert system activated again, not just on phones or screens this time, but through the air itself, sound waves vibrating with visible blue ripples. Emergency notification, spiral protocol. Final convergence initiated. All nodes return to central nexus for pattern completion. Miami transformation at 92%. Prepare for expansion beyond containment zone. Vega's expression changed, her attention diverted. "No, it's too soon. The pattern isn't complete without the final node." She turned to me, suddenly urgent. "Marcus, please, you don't understand what's at stake. If the pattern activates without your integration, the dimensional breach will catastrophically expand. Not just Miami, everything. Reality itself will unravel." "Why me?" I asked, backing away. "Your mind. The way you perceive spatial relationships. When you first noticed the streets changing, you weren't just observing, you were affecting. Your consciousness naturally resonates with the dimensional frequencies we're manipulating. You're the only one who can stabilize the pattern." The crowd began moving again, closing in slowly. Camilo was among them, her eyes now entirely blue, circuits covering her face. Vega's form flickered more violently, parts of her phasing in and out of existence. "It's already starting," Please, Marcus. There's no other way. I looked up at the sky breach. It was widening, the edges fraying like torn fabric. Beyond it, the circuit-like pattern pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. A heartbeat. Something alive. That's when I made my decision. I ran, not away from the crowd, but directly toward the nearest building. As I'd hoped, they weren't expecting that. I crashed through a glass door into what had once been a bank, now transformed into something else entirely. The interior space was impossibly large, stretching beyond what the building's exterior dimensions could contain. Perfect. I'd been theorizing about this since I first noticed the street changes. If reality was becoming unstable, then perception might influence it. The observer effect, quantum mechanics, Dr. Vega's team had been manipulating these principles all along. I focused intensely on where I wanted to go, not the yacht club, not the university, but somewhere they wouldn't expect, somewhere meaningful to me alone. The bank's interior rippled and shifted around me. The walls pulsed, expanding and contracting like a breathing organism. For a moment, I thought I'd failed, then suddenly the floor dropped away beneath me. I fell through layers of reality, glimpsing fragments of different versions of Miami as I passed through them. Underwater streets, burning skyscrapers, primitive huts where modern buildings should be, futuristic spires glowing with that same blue energy. I landed hard on a familiar floor. My apartment. My real apartment, mostly untouched by the transformations. My safe place, the one location I knew better than any other. The one place my mind could accurately recreate down to the smallest detail. Outside my windows, I could see the transformed Miami, the spiral pattern of streets now clearly visible from this height, all converging on the central nexus where Government Center had once stood. The sky breach had expanded, now covering nearly half the visible sky. My dampener was failing, the crystal cracked and dim. I didn't have much time. I grabbed essential supplies, water, my old paper maps of Miami from before the changes, a flashlight. Then I noticed something on my desk that shouldn't be there, a small device I'd never seen before with a handwritten note beside it. For when the dampeners fail. See, Camila had been here, left this for me before she was taken. The device looked like a more sophisticated version of the dampeners with 3 blue crystals instead of 1. My phone buzzed with one final alert. Emergency notification, spiral nexus. Pattern instability critical. Final node location identified. Extraction team deployed to Marcus Reyes' residence. Resistance futile. They knew where I was. Of course they did. If I was truly affecting reality with my perceptions, then my strongest connection would be to my home. I'd led them right to me. I could hear them already, the sound of synchronized footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment. Dozens of them. And something else, a humming vibration that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. Dr. Vega's voice echoed through the walls themselves. Marcus, please, there's nowhere left to run. The pattern must be completed. I looked at Camila's device. 3 crystals more powerful than my failing dampener, but for what purpose? To hide longer? To fight back somehow? The door to my apartment began to glow blue around the edges, the wood transforming into something else, something alive with circuits and energy. I had seconds to decide what to do with Camila's device. The fate of Miami, perhaps the world, depended on my choice. End of transcript. Emergency alert, government broadcast channel, timestamp unknown. Emergency notification, United States Military Command. Dimensional breach detected over Miami-Dade County. All personnel evacuate to minimum safe distance of 100 miles. Repeat, all personnel evacuate immediately. Spiral containment has failed. May God help us all. Transmission cuts to static. Forum post reality remnant network user. Observer MA date unknown. They say that in the final moments before a catastrophic choice, time seems to slow down. Your mind races through possibilities, consequences, alternatives. For me, standing in my apartment with Camilla's device in my hands and the forces of the spiral breaking through my door, time didn't just slow, it fractured. I saw multiple versions of myself making different choices, all existing simultaneously. In one reality, I activated the device, which turned out to be a localized EMP that fried every electronic system within range, including the circuits now embedded in the transformed citizens of Miami. In another, I surrendered to Dr. Vega, allowing her to complete the pattern, stabilizing the breach, but transforming our reality into something unrecognizable. In yet another, I destroyed the device and fled, allowing the breach to expand until it consumed everything. I saw these possibilities like parallel films playing before my eyes, along with countless others. This was what the breach was doing, revealing the malleable nature of reality itself, the infinite branches of possibility that exist at every moment of choice. But I could only choose one path. The door disintegrated. The Dr. Vega floated into my apartment, her form now barely human, a swirling vortex of blue energy roughly shaped like a woman. Behind her came the others, Camila, Officer Collins, and dozens more I didn't recognize, all moving in perfect synchronization, their circuit-covered bodies pulsing in rhythm with the breach in the sky. The pattern must be completed, they said in unison, voices overlapping in an eerie chorus. Reality requires stabilization. I clutched Camilla's device tightly. Now I understood its true purpose. The three crystals weren't just dampeners, they were resonators tuned to the exact frequency of the reality breach. Camilla hadn't just been fighting the transformation, she'd been studying it, understanding it, and she'd built this as a last resort, not to stop the breach, but to control it. You're right about one thing, I told Vega, or what remained of her. I am the final node. But not in the way you think. I twisted the top of the device. The crystals began to glow, emitting a high-pitched whine that made the transformed people flinch in unison. Marcus, what are you doing? Vega's voice was distorted, fluctuating between her human tone and something much more alien. That device will only accelerate the breach. I know, I replied. From the beginning, I'd been asking the wrong question, not how to stop the transformation, but how to direct it. The streets of Miami weren't displaced randomly, they were rearranging themselves into a pattern that needed my mind, my unique spatial perception to complete. So I would complete it on my terms. I closed my eyes and focused on my memory of Miami, not as it had been, but as it should be. Not a spiral drawing everything to a central point of homogenization, but a network connecting distinct nodes while preserving their uniqueness. I visualized the streets, the buildings, the coastline, all existing in harmony without surrendering their individual essence. The device in my hands grew hot, the crystals shifting from blue to a brilliant white. The resonance frequency changed, sending waves of energy pulsing outward. Vega screamed, a sound both human and not. No, I said with certainty I didn't know I possessed. I'm remembering what it means to be human. The walls of my apartment dissolved. We were floating in a void filled with fragments of Miami, pieces of buildings, sections of streets, signs, trees, all suspended in blue-white light. I could see the entire city broken down to its component parts, ready to be reassembled. The transformed citizens convulsed, the circuits on their skin flaring brightly, then beginning to fade. One by one, they dropped to their knees, including Camilla and Collins, Only Vega remained upright, her energy form destabilizing. "What have you done?" she demanded, her voice now layered with another, deeper, older, inhuman. "The spiral requires completion." "The spiral isn't the only pattern in existence," I replied. "You tried to force reality into a single configuration, your perfect pattern. But reality isn't meant to be perfect. It's meant to be messy, contradictory, diverse." The device in my hands pulsed one final time, then shattered, the crystals turning to dust. But it had done its work. The breach in the sky was changing, the writhing circuit pattern reconfiguring itself into something new, a complex web of interconnected nodes, each distinct yet part of a greater whole. I felt a hand grasp mine. Camila, the circuits on her skin now faded to faint blue traces. Her eyes were clear, aware. "You did it," she whispered. "You're completing the pattern differently." Around us, the fragments of Miami began to move, drawn together not in a spiral, but in a complex, organic configuration. Streets reconnected, but not always where they had been before. Buildings reformed, some changed, some untouched. The city was reassembling itself according to my visualization, a network rather than a spiral. Vega's form flickered violently, portions of her human appearance returning momentarily before dissolving back into energy. "This wasn't the plan," she said, her voice now entirely her own again. "The spiral promised evolution, transcendence, at the cost of everything that makes us individual," I replied. "That's not evolution, it's extinction." "What have you done to the entity? The spiral consciousness?" I looked up at the transformed breach. "I didn't destroy it. I just redistributed it. Instead of a central consciousness controlling everything, it's now part of the fabric of reality itself, still connecting us, but not controlling us." The pieces of Miami continued to reassemble around us. I could feel my influence on the process fading as the natural laws of reality reasserted themselves, not exactly as they had been before, but close enough. The laws of physics might bend a little now, but they wouldn't break. Vega's energy form began to disperse. "I was so certain," she whispered, her voice fading. "So certain we were moving towards something greater." "Maybe we are," I said, "just not the way you thought." She dissolved entirely, her energy merging with the reconfiguring city. Whether she was gone or simply transformed into something else, I couldn't tell. As Miami solidified around us, I found myself standing with Camila and the others in what had once been Government Center Plaza. The massive spiral nexus was gone, replaced by a circular park with paths radiating outward like spokes on a wheel. At its center stood a fountain that defied physics, water flowing in impossible patterns, glowing faintly blue in the sunlight. The sky above was whole again, the breach sealed. But it wasn't quite the same sky, I remembered. There were subtle differences in the color, the quality of light. This wasn't the exact reality we had started with, but a new one, a synthesis. My phone buzzed one last time. Emergency notification, Miami-Dade County. Recalibration complete. Thank you, Marcus Reyes. Connection maintained. Individuality preserved. The message wasn't signed. It didn't need to be. Around us, the former integrated citizens were recovering, looking around in confusion. The blue circuits on their skin were fading but not disappearing entirely, subtle reminders of what had happened. "Is it over?" Camila asked, examining the faint blue traces on her arm. I looked out at the rebuilt Miami, familiar yet undeniably changed. Streets that connected in new ways. Buildings that defied conventional architecture without completely abandoning it. A city that somehow felt more alive, more aware. "Not over," I said. "Just different." In the distance, I could see Officer Collins helping people to their feet. Further away, emergency vehicles with slightly altered designs moved through streets that occasionally shifted slightly before settling back into place. The world was still adjusting, finding its new equilibrium. "What happens now?" Camilla asked. I held up my phone, showing her the final alert. "We learn to live with it. The transformation can't be undone completely. The boundaries between realities will always be thinner here in Miami. The streets might still move occasionally. Physics might take unexpected turns. But we're still ourselves." Above us, a plane flew across the sky, a normal, everyday sight that now seemed miraculous in its mundanity. Life would continue. Different, changed, but still life. As we walked through the reconfigured streets of Miami, I noticed subtle blue lights pulsing beneath the pavement, following our footsteps. Not controlling, not threatening, simply acknowledging. The spiral consciousness was still here, woven into the fabric of the city itself. Watching, waiting, perhaps learning what it means to coexist rather than consume. My phone has never received another emergency alert. At least, not one that anyone else can see. Sometimes, in quiet moments, words appear briefly on the screen. The pattern continues. And sometimes when I look at a map of the new Miami, I swear I can see the streets rearranging themselves slightly, just for me, not into a spiral, but into something more complex, more human. The streets of Miami are not where they should be, and perhaps that's exactly as it should be. End of transmission. Official statement, Department of Urban Development, May 30th, 2025. Following the unprecedented seismic and meteorological events in Miami-Dade County last month, all major roadways have been restored to functionality. Citizens may notice minor changes to street layouts and architectural features throughout the metropolitan area. These changes were necessary adaptations to ensure structural integrity following the disturbances. The phenomenon known as blue light resonance in certain infrastructure elements is harmless and merely a side effect of new materials used in reconstruction. Citizens are encouraged to report any unusual street configurations to the Department of Urban Development's new Reality Maintenance Division. Miami remains open for business and tourism. Our city is stronger and more connected than ever. Remember, if you see something, say something. Data packet recovered from Miami Reality Remnant Network, origin unknown. They think it's contained. They're wrong. The streets remember being somewhere else. The pattern spreads slowly now, subtly. One street at a time. One city at a time.
Look closely at your maps. Are you sure your streets are where they should be?